Parents of JonBenet Ramsey break their silence.
I did not kill my daughter, JonBenet.
I did not kill JonBenet.
Landslide in Great Britain. The Clinton-style Labour Party candidate for Prime Minister ends a generation of Conservative Party rule. And teen sex in the U.S. The government reports the first major trend shift in a quarter century.
This is the CBS Evening News. With Dan Rather reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. We're starting out tonight with the JonBenet Ramsey murder mystery in Boulder, Colorado, because her parents spoke publicly today for the first time in 4 months. Their long silence and their refusal until yesterday to submit to a formal police interview had raised suspicions that they may have been involved in the murder. Today, in a carefully orchestrated invitation-only meeting with selected reporters, John and Patsy Ramsey addressed those suspicions.
To those of you who may want to ask, let me address very directly, I did not kill my daughter, JonBenet. There have also been innuendos that she has been or was sexually molested. I can tell you those were the most hurtful innuendos to us as a family. They are totally false. JonBenet and I had a very close relationship. I will miss her dearly for the rest of my life.
I'm appalled that anyone would think that John or I would be involved in such a hideous, heinous crime. But let me assure you that I did not kill JonBenet. I did not have anything to do with it. I love that child with my whole of my heart and soul. The police and investigators have assured us that this is a case which can be solved. You know, you may be eluding the authorities for a time, but God knows who you are, and we will find you.
Many people have found the behavior of John and Patsy Ramsey curious in the week since their daughter's murder, rightly or wrongly, fairly or unfairly. Some, as we've reported, say it's downright suspicious. CBS News correspondent Diana Olick in Boulder is following this most unusual murder case.
We've been anxious to do this
Until
for some
today,
time.
John and Patsy Ramsey's silence was one of the greatest mysteries of all, second only to who killed their daughter.
Quite frankly, over the past months, it has not been really easy to talk with anyone.
The immediate expectation following the murder was that they would surely want to talk with police, but for 4 months they refused.
Frankly, we were, as you might imagine, insulted that we would even be considered suspects in the death of our daughter.
Instead, they built a wall of lawyers and conditions, leading many to believe they had something to hide.
So we accepted being suspects, but what concerned us is that any time spent looking at us is time that's wasted.
Sources close to the Ramseys say it was their attorneys concerned that police were out to arrest the parents who held up the talks. Finally, yesterday, all parties agreed to terms. At the Boulder DA's office, Patsy was interrogated for 6 hours and John for 2. Sources tell CBS News they both left pleased and relieved with their discussions.
And our objective is to get this killer found.
As for the level of international attention this case has drawn, the Ramseys say they don't understand it and have no regrets about the public pageantry that so many now equate with the tragedy of JonBenet.
Those were beautiful pictures. I mean, those, and I'm so happy that we have those pictures. It's all that we have now. Those are memories.
That was just...
And Dan, just to give you an idea of how orchestrated this interview was, only local Boulder reporters were allowed in, and each one of them was given this password, subtract, to get to the secret location. Now, the attorneys were present, but they would not allow themselves to be shown on camera, and reporters were forbidden from asking any questions about the police interrogation, as well as the greater investigation. None of the details that we've heard about, like the ransom note, or what JonBenet looked like when she was found. All of that was off limits. Dan?
Thanks, Diana. In London tonight, the sun is setting on Britain's generation of Conservative Party rule. All signs now point to a landslide for the Labour Party and the elevation of a Clinton-style candidate, Tony Blair, to be Britain's youngest Prime Minister since 1812. CBS News senior European correspondent Tom Fenton has the latest. Tom?
Dan, well, early indications are that the Labour Party and its leader, Tony Blair, have won. And if the exit polls are right, it is a landslide victory that has ended 18 years of Conservative government. Tony Blair and his wife, Cherie, went to the polls this morning heavily favored to win. His smooth campaign and populist style owe a lot to the Clinton campaigns, which he both admired and copied. There are other similarities. Blair pulled his old-fashioned socialist Labour Party to the right and made it acceptable to the majority of middle-class voters.
With your trust and your help, then we shall make this a great country again. Thank you very much.
Prime Minister John Major went into the election a 20-point underdog and never recovered.
How do you do?
His campaign was a shambles. An essentially decent but hardly charismatic politician, he paid the price for his weak leadership and the scandals that marred the Conservative Party during his years in power.
You'll never be elected again.
John Major lost this election despite his party's success in creating Europe's most robust economy. One of the results of this election could be closer relations between the British and American governments. Baby boomers Prime Minister Blair and President Clinton, like Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan used to be, are likely to be pretty much on the same wavelength. Dan?
Tom Fenton in London, thanks. In Washington, it's close, but no done deal, at least not yet, on a possible legislative landmark. A 5-year plan, an idea, to balance the federal budget. But it could put the touch on Medicare and Social Security increases, two political taboos for millions of Americans. CBS News Chief Washington correspondent Bob Schieffer has late details. Bob?
Well, Dan, here is the gist of what they're working on, and I think the most controversial thing they've decided on is to save money by curbing the cost of living increases for people on Social Security. They're going to do that by making an adjustment in the way the Consumer Price Index is figured. They've also agreed on $135 billion in tax cuts over the next 5 years, including a cut in capital gains and inheritance taxes, two things Republicans demanded. A tax credit in the range of $500 a child for families and further tax credits for college students, something the president pushed. In addition, the plan also calls for reducing spending on Medicare and Medicaid, $138 billion, and reducing other domestic spending, $145 billion. But the question, though, is whether the leaders can sell this to their rank and file. Already, liberal Democrats are calling the plan a turkey because it cuts too deeply into programs like Medicare, and Republicans like Phil Gramm called it a stinking fish because it does not cut spending enough. With talk like that, it's going to take some real doing to get anything like this passed.
Bob Schieffer, thanks. Still to come on the CBS Evening News, sex among U.S. teens is down for the first time on record. Medical marijuana under fire. Does it really help the sick? A break for the prosecution in the Ennis Cosby murder case, and hot rocks in Hawaii, sizzling close-ups of the volcano mountain erupting.
Well, I used to think all dentures